between colonial forms of thinking, which involved the pursuit by a certain class of predominantly white men in European countries to go to other parts of the world, to treat those places as terra nullis, as kind of a blank canvas on which they could kind of create their own fantasies of accumulation and dispossession. So disregarding the kinds of relationships with the territory, with the land that people such as those who we heard in the video just now had, and then setting up extractive industries such as the silver mining that was mentioned, all forms of plantation economy, the growing of sugar, and its sale to help fund and perpetuate a kind of trade in people who were enslaved and in goods and raw materials which were kind of stolen, extracted from these colonized territories. And so I think, we have to understand the underlying role of a kind of a capitalist logic in facilitating this colonial expansion. And we have to understand that logic hasn't gone away, it's here in the present. So we can see, for instance, in responses to the climate crisis that are based on focusing on carbon as an entity, we can see a similar fetishization to the one that Mamadi described of other resources and people that took place when silver was mined or when people were enslaved and forcibly transferred to another land. And we're treating carbon as this entity that if we commodify it, if we attach a value to it in the market economy, then we'll be able to somehow trade it and reduce it. And we neglect all of the kind of social and political relationships that underpin the processes that emit that carbon, which are patterned again by these legacies of colonialism.
I think that's really key, isn't it, to bring out the human relationship, because in the discussions of this panel, I think Mamadi raised the point that we don't want to bombard people with figures and the science and everything is out there, but it's bringing the human back into this conversation is key as well, and humanising people who have been othered, have been labelled as chattel. And there was an example from your work, the essay actually, Leon, which we referenced in the talks to the citizens jury, which it'd be great if you could speak about the contrast in the climate response to a place such as Haiti versus Netherlands, and how that plays out with all this colonial relationship.
So one of the legacies of the system, which meant that this group of people from Europe, when travelled to other parts of the world, believed that they could name those places or rename those places more appropriately, displace existing peoples who live there, disregard existing ecosystems and cultures, was that they implemented a system of nation states, and so now we have kind of countries such as Haiti, and we have the Netherlands, and if we look at the responses to climate breakdown in each country, and we understand that those countries' responses are linked to that historical process of colonialism, we can see how in the present those countries are, or the people who live in those countries are kind of, their lives and their futures have in some way been locked in or have been solidified by that historical process. So to get a bit more specific, Haiti at the time that it was, Haiti was the kind of the first country to see a rebellion of the enslaved people, which overthrew colonial relationships with France at the time, and there were other colonial powers circling around the island at the time. And one of the reasons for them all wanting to possess the island of San Domingo, but Haiti, as we now know, the kind of Democratic Republic, was because it was the most profitable colony in the world. So it was so valuable that the French were willing to sell part of what now is Louisiana and parts of the US. They were willing to sell it so that they could continue to have ownership of Haiti. However, when the Haitian people overthrew slavery, they were punished for this, for having the temerity to fight back and push back against having been colonized and having been enslaved, and they were punished by France and other colonial powers in terms of a treaty, which meant that they had to pay reparations to France, and they've been paying reparations to France until the mid-1950s. So one consequence of that, which I'm sure you can kind of connect the dots between, is that Haiti has been deprived of certain amounts of resources, or not deprived, resources have been stolen from Haiti in order to go and service this debt that they were forcibly trapped into as a punishment for securing their independence from the French colonial regime. And if you think about the volume of money that was transferred from Haiti to France in the period of Haiti, since the period of Haiti's independence up until the mid-1950s, when they finally managed to finish servicing the debt. And if you contrast that, we can contrast that then with the resources that are available in a country like Netherlands. So Netherlands has some of the most advanced flood defense projects of any country in the contemporary world. What do we know about Netherlands and its history in relation to coloniality or internationalism? Well, one thing that we know is that the Netherlands was, or the Dutch at the time, they were one of the dominant colonial powers. They had colonies in Indonesia, in the Caribbean, Africa, all around the world. And through their relationships with those colonies, through that process of extraction that we've already touched upon, they were able to enrich themselves, as many other European countries possessing colonial territories were too. And they were able to kind of not just benefit from the immediate material resources that they extracted, that they stole, but also to help to solidify the kind of global architecture of relationships between these newly formed nation states, which meant that the rules were kind of written and rigged in the favor of those colonial and former colonial powers at the direct expense of countries such as Haiti. So you see these asymmetrical power dynamics playing out in other institutions such as the UN, the World Trade Organization, and the International Monetary Fund. And one of the consequences of that in terms of Holland's, or the Netherlands' flood defences is that they have a lot of money to invest in flood defences. They have billions to invest. And they've committed to spending tens of billions of euros on flood defence programmes to deal with the effects of climate breakdown and the rising of sea levels. Meanwhile, a country such as Haiti, and we could look at other examples all around the world that are in some ways in parallel to Haiti, but Haiti is this particularly egregious example, partly because of the link between its rebellion and its punishment in terms of having to pay reparations to European countries. Haiti does not have those resources to build flood defences, and yet Haiti is much more, to use the kind of common term that's used, it's much more on the front line of climate breakdown. So they are experiencing and have experienced more severe weather in the forms of more intense hurricanes and tropical storms, as well as droughts. And I don't know if many people are aware, but there have been ongoing protests in Haiti over the past, for a while, the past few months certainly. There have been people protesting in the streets, partly against the government there, but the conditions are all exacerbated by the presence in the present of this legacy of coloniality that we heard about before.
So we've got 5 minutes on the second 2 questions before we put it out to the audience. So yeah, just a reminder, if you hand up and Eve will be scanning your faces, your beautiful faces, and passing you a piece of paper to write a question down. But yeah, brilliant examples. Obviously, as you said as well, we have coloniality literally in our pockets. That's another relationship with the Congo and other countries, isn't it? That you know, the ongoing Holocaust, in the African heritage communities and the reparations movement. We again look at language, and so we call that process the continuing Holocaust, the maangamizi, so that using the Kiswahili term to describe that, you know, the particular ongoing genocide, Holocaust of Africans, from chattel slavery to colonial slavery to the present day, and it is ongoing with millions, tens of millions, you know, being decimated in the Congo and elsewhere. So Mamadi, yeah, picking up the second point on climate justice as social justice and the interconnectedness of struggles and oppressions in a couple of minutes.
If you don't mind, I'm going to just skip back a little bit to thinking about language and how the way in which we hold even English words and terms, especially terms that are engaged within climate science, are structure how we understand and commit violences even as we use them. So I'd like to ask you a question. What is an ecology? How would you define an ecology? I know that you all know this is why you're here, right? Come on. Share your expertise. What's an ecology?
Our environment. The environment.
Any other?
The interconnected relations between living things and non-living things.
Okay. Any others on that? Well, let's go with that, the interconnection between living and non-living things. The next question I want to ask is, what's not living? What really isn't living? Because this is the dichotomy. I grew up in school. You had to study, you know, characteristics of living things and characteristics of non-living things. And I just always wondered, you know, where was the boundary really? Yeah. Did we make an artificial boundary so we could cease to be responsible for that transformation and from living to non-living? Yeah. When Sir Edward Long went to Jamaica to count, to do an inventory of the island, amongst that inventory were presumably, I don't know whether they were living or non-living, he counted the Negroes, the number of Negroes different plantations had, and he numbered them alongside the cattle and alongside other forms of stock. Yeah. I always wonder at which point we became separated from this idea of ecology, or even the other term, ecosystem. And there's a very graphic description in here of the kinds of testings which took, nuclear testing which took place in the Pacific, and how the human bodies there were counted in the discovery of the terminology, the understanding of what an ecosystem was, as they traced the radioactive fallouts and actually brought people back from Hawaii into really toxic spaces, just so that we could measure, we could understand really what the flow in an ecosystem was through real human bodies. So I've defined an ecology as a system logic that's based upon the relationship of the earth with itself. And I don't exclude out within that definition of the earth ourselves, our bodies in that. The kind of dictionary definition is very similar to the one that you gave. And earlier on I talked about ecologies dying, but how does an ecology die? I thought perhaps it died in these three different ways. One way is in it being disconnected from the flow of life force. So there was some kind of internal disconnection. Whatever animated this system, it was disconnected, it became disconnected. Alternatively, one could look at the death as because of having an alien logic, a logic which